Views and comments expressed by Rodney Monker, his guests, callers, and advisors on Freedom March are not necessarily those of the management, ownership, or production unit of ILS, the Verizon Media Group. Freedom March is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without the express written consent of the Verizon Media Group. Freedom March is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2017. All rights are reserved.
The role of a woman in the society is to submit. Birth control are the pills of the devil. Education is so fundamental to the development of a people. I'm murderous. Simple as that. What am I voting for? Voting will change nothing.
Tout le monde haïtien, como ye. God save the Queen.
Broadcasting live from ILTV Studios here in Nassau, Bahamas. Welcome to Freedom March. My name is Rodney Monker. I'm a Justice of the Peace here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And of course, I'm a member of the local Catholic Christian community. I welcome everybody who is now joining me here on ILTV Studios, channel 224, and Flow TV 112. That is not to say that I do not welcome the people around the world who has joined me on Facebook. Seconds ago, I received a call from a handicapped Negro man who's complaining over the fact that there are long lines, according to the Negro Mail, in which the Negro people are standing in the hot sun waiting for coupons. He's extremely upset. I promise him the first thing I will mention is his social predicament. He said that Mrs. Lanisha Roll and Minister Warren Miller have these Negro people in the hot sun waiting for food coupons, and he would like to return to the policy that Melanie Griffin, the former PLP social minister, had introduced, in which funds were placed on the Visa card. Well, I'll talk about that. But once again, it is a mystery as to what happened to the people whom the Bahamas government is reporting to be Haitians immigrants. At this very moment, they have not found not one single illegal immigrant that came off of Sunday's boat. You would remember that they were all attending a memorial in memory of the war dead when this boat came ashore, and guess what? Marvin Dames was not even ready for it. But I got some new development that I would like to discuss with you folks as I continue this investigation into the unlawful disappearance of the so-called bullets that a Negro offline home-based company is reported to have brought into the country. Well, I'm happy that 90-year-old retired Assistant Commissioner of Police Paul Thompson is sharing my concern. Well, I can't see the clock, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Continue talking? Oh, so the countdown is on. Well, folks, we're doing all kinds of experimentation here in the studio in preparation for radio and things like that. I've never seen this kind of technology in my life. But this is Freedom March. Stand with me as we discuss what happened to the so-called illegal Haitian immigrant. Only me and Frankie the Minister of Transport can find the Haitian people. Because Frankie's Haitian and I'm Haitian, and we would know where they would be hiding.
Freedom March with Rodney Monker will be right back after this. This is Freedom March with Rodney Monker.
Welcome back to Freedom March, broadcasting live on ILTV Studios here in Nassau, Bahamas. My name is Rodney Monker. Today, I want to look at the straw market and what I call the rights of the straw vendors to occupy the straw market. Let's look at the history of the straw vendors. You would recall that in 2002, the then Prime Minister, Perry Gladstone Christie, commenced a radical reform of the straw market in which preparation was made for the construction of a modern straw market. In the Bahamas, straw vendors have always been regarded as heroes in the social and political emancipation of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Every Negro government, in fact, in fairness to the first government, the United Bahamian Party, they recognize the contribution to the arts and crafts by the Negro women who entered the straw industry. And so Sir Stafford Sands, who was the first Minister of Finance and who is responsible for a major revolution in terms of tourism, banking, housing, etc. He saw the importance of a straw industry. And then, of course, every successive government saw the importance of it. You would recall, as I said earlier, that Prime Minister Perry Gladstone Christie, when he would have come to power in 2002, the PLP set about to create a new straw market. But for whatever reason, that accomplishment was not achieved until Hubert Alexander Ingram seized power in 2007. Mr. Ingram, being a former stalwart of the Progressive Liberal Party, would have recognized that every government has a duty and an obligation to assist the development of the tourism industry. And Mr. Ingram did that. And the straw vendors, I submit, have a right to the straw market. And Ingram made sure that he built a wonderful straw market. In the straw market is a nest of Negro women who are very politically astute, good business people. But we know that since 2008, the economy of the Bahamas was tied to the hips of the United States. And as their economy suffered and collapsed, I think it was around 2008, we here in the Bahamas began to experience the same problem. Now, business in the tourism industry is not as good, and the straw vendors have been catching hell. And many of them followed Minis and the F&M, and they voted against their livelihood. They voted for the F&M because Minis told them not only did he like the Negro people, he was committed to doing for the poor. And so they followed him. Well, guess what has happened? They wouldn't let me rest. They keep on coming to complain. And since they are my people, the Negro people, I have to listen to them and to conduct an investigation to determine if they had a just cause. And the same suspects keep coming up. Desmond Bannister, they allege, is the minister responsible for the straw market. And they told me how Desmond has been treating them horribly. That's what they told me. They also drew to my attention that there's a Negro woman by the name of Mrs. Beverly Finley. She is, according to the straw vendors, the managing director on the board, the Straw Market Authority Board. And they told me that Beverly Finley was once terminated by the PLP. And now the F&M is in power, and Desmond has appointed Miss Finley. And apparently, when Miss Finley was terminated by the PLP, she hired Desmond Bannister. Desmond was her lawyer. And now, Desmond is her minister. And the straw vendors have complained that Desmond and Miss Finley have been using the police unjustifiably to close down their stalls. And I said to them, what do you mean that the police has been closing down your stall? So the police show up from the police tourism station and told them that they are under the authority of the government to shut down the straw vendor's stall. I asked, did the police at any material time produce an order of the court? They said, no, they didn't produce it. All they told them, you better get from here because we're closing it down. In the course of it, an 83-year-old woman, one Miss Carey, became so overwhelmed and frustrated, and in her anger and in her sorrow, she walked away, leaving her business. I asked Desmond to stop it. There is a judicial course by which this ought to be done. I want Desmond to stop it because Desmond is a lawyer. And there should be no duress in making these people sign an agreement or a contract, which Desmond ought to know is egregious. And I call it egregious because the least that Desmond should be willing to have those Negro vendors do first before they sign the contract is to go and seek legal advice. Desmond, I know you was like this. I mean, you got hog heart, man. Why are you and Miss Finley doing this? Huh? This is not right. I got all kind of letter from the straw market. And they are now saying to me that they won't march. Desmond, I want you to stop it. I want Miss Carey to return to her stall. She's 83 years old. And this is no way for you to treat a senior citizen. You and Beverly Finley. I want y'all to stop it, man. Because the straw vendors tell me they're ready to march. And if you don't stop it, I'm going to encourage them to march. And I'm going to encourage them to lick you with some of them straw dolls or straw bikes. Goodness me. Y'all don't hit the minister unless I tell y'all, okay? Because that would be against the law. Oh boy, we are in trouble. Now, Papa, I see you for a long time. But they brought up the name of a lawyer. Papa, this your daughter? They said that Papa has a daughter on the board, a Miss Kelly Ingram. And Papa, I want you to speak to Miss Ingram and tell her to tell Desmond, stop oppressing Mama them. All right? Papa, they complain. They says, Miss Finley and your daughter. I asked them if they sure. Because I didn't know, Papa, that your daughter was on the straw market authority. Papa, tell her, don't listen to Desmond and Miss Finley. All right, Papa? Tell her that. Because apparently Desmond authorized a letter to be sent to the straw vendors demanding either $200 and or they can't owe anything above $200. And the straw vendors are catching hell. And they are under tremendous pressure. And Papa, you know, pressure will burst pipe. So Papa, talk to your daughter to find out what is going on, because I told the straw vendors, when they said Papa has a daughter in the straw, I said, Papa, daughter doing straw work? They say, no, but she is one of the people in the straw business. So Papa, I came up with a wonderful idea. I said, well then, let's march to Papa. So Papa, instead of me taking them to march on Desmond and Hubert Minnis, Papa, I am suggesting that they march to you. I think that's what I'm going to do, Papa. We are going to march to you. But I'm disturbed over some of these allegations. And I'm embarrassed at this point to go into it, because I have not had an opportunity to speak to one of the women who are in their 80s. Desmond, stop it. Leave the vendors alone. You know things tough. Huh? If Minnis need an increase in his salary, what you say about the vendors? Hardly any tourists coming there. So the people can't make no money to pay their bill. And it is the duty of the F&M government to take care of the people them. All right? So, Papa, I think I'm going to help them to organize a march. And we'll march on you first, Papa. You first. And then after that, Desmond. Because I've told them, I said, listen, let's march to Papa. And let's tell Papa. Because I know Papa will side with the vendors there. So to the vendors, I've had this now for about 2 weeks, but I'm studying it. All right? And I've asked people to keep an eye on Miss Finley. Miss Finley, I bet you better stop it, Miss Finley. Stop treating these old women like this, man. I always thought Miss Finley was a saved woman. Huh? I always thought she was Christian. Stop doing these people like this. And I'm annoyed what you have done to Mrs. Carey. Don't bother with Miss Carey, eh? Anyway, I think I shall leave that for the time. All right? I'm trying to strengthen one or two of those F&M straw vendors. Y'all is F&M. Don't be afraid of your party. Don't forget what time is it. It's the people's time. And when the people can't pay, the government has a duty to stand the economic burden. Huh? That's what the government's supposed to do. That's what y'all want F&M for. If you ain't got the money, the government will absorb it. Because ministers are absorbing all kind of money for all kind of other people. Huh? So I want them to stop it. Ah, boy. I'm so sorry for 82-year-old Miss Carey and what they have done to Miss Carey. I want y'all to leave Miss Carey alone. All right? Leave Miss Carey alone. And Miss Finley, you claim that the PLP fired you. So if your dismissal was unjustifiable, now that you are in charge, why are you not being merciful? Huh? Why are you not being merciful? Miss Finley, be merciful, okay? Because I don't want to have them march on you. But Desmond, you better stop it. Your mother told me I mustn't curse you out. But if you continue this, Desmond, I shall curse you out. Oh boy, my Negro people, they are catching lots of hell. My spiritual advisor is in studio. I expect a medical doctor to join me, Dr. Deborah Archer. She's supposed to join me. She is a family physician, and she's a part of a group called CABE, Citizens Against Bank Exploitation. And so she's going to join me in the next half an hour because I'm told that my spiritual advisor, yeah. So that is what is going to go on. We're going to talk banking policy and see what all the banks has been doing. Because there's one woman who works in the Royal Bank. I find it strange. You call, she never answered the phone. The Royal Bank don't answer the phone. The woman don't answer the phone. But I think I can call her name so that y'all could tell her I'm looking for her. It's just amazing what is taking place here on the island among my people, the Negro people. So I'm going to have Dr. Denotra, can't pronounce these new words, Dr. Denotra Archer Cartwright. She's going to come on. We can hear what she has to say about bank exploitation and how the banks have gotten away with unarmed robbery. And every successive Negro government had promised to rope the bank in, and nothing happens. I've always been suspicious about it. Why nothing has happened. So that is what is taking place. And then, of course, I'll look at what Paul Thompson is saying about Marvin James. You remember I tell y'all how Marvin is prematurely? I tell y'all skullduggery is taking place. Because I know the Negro who's bought the guns in. The only thing I need to do now is to take him in custody. This is Freedom March. I'm looking for the missing guns from the Defense Force.
Freedom March with Rodney Monker will be right back after this. Thoughts, views, and comments expressed by Rodney Monker, his guests, callers, and advisors on Freedom March are not necessarily those of the management, ownership, or production unit of ILS, the Verizon Media Group. Freedom March is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without the express written consent of the Verizon Media Group. Freedom March is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2017. All rights are reserved.
Welcome back to Freedom March, broadcasting live on ILTV Studios here in Nassau, Bahamas. I'm joined in studio by my spiritual advisor, Bradley Roll, who is a biblical scholar. Bradley, welcome to Freedom March.
Thank you, Mr. Monka. Thank you.
And then, of course, my special guest is Dr. Help me, Doctor.
Dr. Denotra Archer Cartwright.
Dr. Denotra Archer Cartwright. Dr. Archer Cartwright, welcome to Freedom March.
Thank you, Mr. Monker.
Well, in a few minutes, I shall engage the good doctor because she's our special guest. But as customary, before I engage the doctor, I have to curse out one or two more people. But guess what? I think I'll curse them out a little later. It is always wonderful to have a doctor here with us, and particularly a woman doctor. And Dr. Denotra Archer Cartwright, you know, as leader of the Woman Dam, let me welcome you to Freedom March.
Thank you, Mr. Moncur. Thank you for having me today.
What kind of doctor are you?
I am a family physician.
A family
specialist,
physician?
yes.
What that means?
Well, you know, we've always had the idea of GPs. Well, over the years, we decided that we wanted someone who was a little bit more specialized, but was able to deal with all different aspects of medicine. And so they created a program. We do an additional 4 years where we specialize. We do a lot of preventative medicine, primary care, and clinic management type thing. So we're a little bit more diverse than your GP.
This is powerful. Doctor, you are a part of an organization that is concerned about banking exploitation. Tell me the name of the group.
So yes, I'm part of a group called the Citizens Against Bank Exploitation. We got together almost about 6 weeks ago, and we decided that we all had basically had enough of the banks in the country and the way that they treat Bahamians. You can see recently in the news that banking fees alone went up about 187%. And I think if this was any other sector of society, we would all be up in arms. But for some reason, the banks seem to have a leeway to just do what they want to us.
Well, what are you suggesting that citizens do? You know, it's the bank them.
Yep.
They are exploiting us, as you would have suggested. What is the alternative? Because, I'll give you an example. In the numbers business, just the other day, the company that owns this studio, as a result of criticism from the government, has issued a direct policy telling citizens that they cannot use their gaming accounts for the purposes of transferring money safely from one community to relatives.
Yes.
Which now has put economic hardship on the people there. What alternative suggestion do you have in view of what I've just said to you and the alleged banking exploitation?
So basically, we've been put between a rock and a hard place because the banks are not providing the type of service that's needed for the Bahamas. We are an archipelago, and so we need diversity and competition in the financial services to allow banking to develop in a way that best suits the Bahamas. We have to think in terms of context. Now, in terms of the web shops. Originally, Bahamians said they didn't really want the web shops, but the government allowed it to happen. They made them legal, so they made them a business. And as such, sometimes businesses evolved, and we saw that the web shops evolved in a manner because there was a need in the society to transfer money from place to place, and we had a lot of the commercial banks that were moving out of areas. So I think the approach that the government took on this particular subject could have been a bit better. Maybe they could have looked at the situation and say, why is it that people are moving their money this particular way? Do we need to look at our laws? Do we need to look at our policies? Are they in the framework that's assisting Bahamians? And maybe they would have approached the web shop situation differently. Sometimes we have to grow. And in order to grow, we have to look at what's happening already in the market and make space for that. And so it's a legal company. I think this could have been approached differently, but I feel like the banks have a stranglehold on the financial economy in a sense. And so our policies seem to be driven not for what's best for the Bahamas and Bahamians, but what's best for the banks, which a lot of them are not even Bahamian banks, they're foreign banks. So who's really driving the policy? That's a big question I have. And we as Bahamians need to get together and decide if we want something better than what we have and agitate for that.
What would you suggest to the government? Because Christmas is coming.
Yes.
And I got one child in one of the family islands. And I expect money to buy lamb leg.
Exactly.
What would you suggest? What suggestion will you give to K. Peter Turnquest, the Negro minister responsible for financing and I think banking?
Right.
What would you suggest?
Well, he has to look at this from different views. And the first one is, why are the banks pulling out of the islands? Is there a particular reason why? Maybe if he brought that public, we'd be able to address it and see why they're pulling out, if it's a financial reason, whatever it is. The other thing is the web shops and other entities have facilities in these areas, union banks, web shops, all these different persons. Maybe it's time to sit down to the table and find out how best to utilize those services in a legal manner. But that's a discussion I think that they need to have, because we do have a lot of Bahamians on the Family Islands who do not have access to banks. And we've seen them pulling out for a very long time. And it's actually quite disturbing, because we seem to be going backwards in our financial services and rather than forward. And so I really would like to see a more proactive approach in which they look at the situation and try to best find something that suits our particular situation.
My spiritual advisor, you have been an outstanding banker. What
I don't know if you'll say that, but
what would you contribute
I
to
did
this
about 20.
discussion?
Well, you know, the doctor makes a lot of sense. Here it is for years now, the foreign banks in particular. You know, they have been, I mean, what I would call, for lack of a better term, raping our society as far as interest and banking fees is concerned. Let's look at an example, right? You take out a 25-year mortgage with a bank at an interest rate of maybe 9.25%, maybe 8.25%. So when you borrow $210,000 from the bank and you pay that over a 25-year period at that interest rate, and you do the multiplication, you would notice that you would have paid the bank almost 2.5 times for
about
the amount.
$500,000.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
$500,000.
For what you would have borrowed. So you say to yourself, the banks have been making a lot of money off these loans, and then what happens is these banks then take a lot of the profits that they make and they ship it out the country. So what is happening is the Bahamian people are not benefiting from this by far and large. So the point now is that I think what the government should really look at is giving local citizens license to do banking and have our people keep the money here, and the country could benefit more. I don't know what the doc
I
thinks
totally
about that.
agree. I mean, our whole stance on this, why we need to Bahamianize our financial services. We need to diversify, and we need competition. And so if you were to take that approach, then you'll find, as well as proper regulation, because there is no regulation per se on the banking fees. And then it goes deeper, like you said, these are
what do you
foreign
mean
banks.
when you say that there are no regulation? Are you suggesting to me that these banks can just make charges, add charges without consultation with either the governor of the central bank and or the minister responsible for financial services or finance?
Yeah, there's basically no regulation on banking fees. What the central bank looks at is prime rates and interest rates in terms of what we pay. But in terms of their fees, we have seen that they've basically been able to do whatever they felt that. They wake up this morning and, cashing a check is $20 and it's $20.
That's ridiculous.
And then they're going to tell you, look at the fine print. It's subject to whatever we want to do. And so therefore you're really, you're just there waiting to see what they're going to do next. The problem is you don't have enough competition in the market to go very far. And there are services that the commercial banks provide that some of our union banks and some of our Bahamian banks do not provide. So you're really between a rock and a hard place.
When you say union banks, are you referring
Like
to
credit unions?
Credit union
unions,
cooperatives.
right.
They don't provide certain services.
Certain services, from my research, many of them don't take your paycheck, so you can't really deposit like straight from your employer straight there. They're just getting into the kind of the credit system with Visa and that stuff. So there's a lot of steps for them to take, and there are also a lot of restrictions that they have as well. And so you cannot completely just say, well, let's, some people say, okay, let's just take all our money and put it there. Well, there are still some limitations to what they are able to do. So that's going to leave some people out of the loop in terms of being able to fully take part in banking and finance. And so what we need is a more Bahamianized policy, which the spiritual advisor alluded to, that allows more Bahamians to own banks. I think within the context of knowing our culture, I think that would suit us a lot better. We need competition and we need diversity in the market of our financial services.
You having looked at this situation, what do you think? Why are we in this mess? What has gone wrong fundamentally? What do you think went wrong?
Well, we've actually been dealing with this problem for over 100 years. If you go back, you will see that the foreign or Canadian banks especially have been here in this country for over 100 years. And it's been a cycle of having the same exact problems where they really just kind of make their money, send it off somewhere. It doesn't stay here. They're not interested in loans for business or anything that's going to spur the economy. They're simply here to take out. And so we saw kind of a bubble happen where the economy was good. They gave very predatory loans, very high interest loans. And then when the economy went down, people weren't able to pay. People started losing their homes. And so they started looking for other sources of income. And then we saw the different fees popping up as well as with VAT. And so we are in this problem because our policies are seemingly not being pushed from a Bahamian advantage. Instead, they seem to be some type of externally controlled in a sense, because the preference for the central bank is the foreign banks. So that's a problem in itself, that your preference is non-Bahamian banks or banks that are solely connected to a foreign bank. And so that way of thinking leaves a lot of power in the hands of these banks. And it doesn't leave a lot of room for Bahamians to be competitive in the market.
Wow. In your research, have you come across any parliamentary committee or former members of parliament who sought a committee to investigate the banks? Have you come across that?
Well, currently there's a committee in place. I think we heard from Mr. Folks just about a week or two ago, sitting down with the banks and having the discussion. However, the problem is we do not get any information out of these committees, nor do we get any reports. So as a Bahamian citizen concerned about the financial services, and my government is going on my behalf to speak for me, I would like some feedback. Telling me what you found out, what's the reasoning behind the fees, what's the reasoning behind the reason why we have different interests than other Caribbean countries, and what are you going to set up in order to deal with this situation. So the feedback has been very poor. There have been committees in the past. I know Mr. Folks is involved right now, but we're not getting anything back.
When I talked about a parliamentary committee, I say this to you respectfully, I do not regard that committee of which Mr. Folks is headed or heading as a parliamentary committee. I want to take you back to about when did Bradley Roberts came to the House of Assembly? Sinclair, Oaten, no. Shadrach Morris, yes.
72.
Shadrach Morris, I think, died shortly after the 1982 general election, in which Bradley Roberts then became the candidate and was elected. If my memory is correct, he had a parliamentary committee appointed to investigate the bankings.
Okay.
Bradley Roberts, forgive me, I don't think he ever reported.
That's what we say.
You may want to look into the records of the Honorable House of Assembly to see, one, am I correct that Bradley Roberts did have this committee? And two, did the committee meet? And did Mr. Roberts ever report it?
Thank you. I'm definitely going to look
Look
that
into
up.
that.
Yes, because I haven't been able to find any actual reports.
Right. But I do recall that shortly after the 1982 general election, it would be between 82 and, 87.
Okay.
All right. Let's go to 90. 82, 90. You should find it.
82, 90.
All right. Because I was always concerned about why Bradley Roberts never reported. But, but you know, I never said anything because
Well, we're still there after all of these years.
Yeah.
We still don't have any reports. We still don't have any information on why things happen. And we still haven't had any changes in our policy over all these years, over 100 years of banking.
Now, what kind of action can we take against these wicked, sinful banks?
Okay, so our group, we already staged a smaller protest when we first came together.
You all had a protest?
Yeah, downtown.
Please describe that.
So we
for me.
we did a flash protest, like a lunchtime protest. We just went, we grabbed our placards, and we went out there, and whoever wanted to meet us, they came down. We had some people engage with us, tell us their stories about the bank. We met some French researchers who were actually researching the effects of the Canadian banks on the region.
Really?
Yes, and they were the ones that pointed us to articles that show that we were having these problems for years, and that the Canadians were actually influencing a lot of the policy that we were seeing. And they were off to the Cayman after they had spoken to us, and they're doing some research that's going to take a few years on this situation itself. We also engaged two of the ministers came out during the time when we were there. One was Mr. Ellsworth Johnson, and he was discussing with us that he agreed with a lot of the things that we said. And we pointed out to him that it was a lot of central bank and government policy that restricted the competition, which Mr. Jeffrey Lloyd had actually spoken about when we engaged with him just as he stepped out of the bank.
He was the minister?
No, Mr. Lloyd had come out of RBC actually, and one of the people that was protesting with us spoke with him just briefly.
And that would be this year?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
This was about 6 weeks ago when we were protesting, about
What-
5 weeks ago when we were
What
protesting.
information did he share?
He said he thought the issue was competition. And so when we were able to speak with Mr. Johnson, because he was saying some nice things, but I said to him, that Mr. Lloyd had said our issue is that we don't have enough competition. However, competition is dictated kind of by your policy and your preferences, and what was the government going to do about that? But he was unable to respond at that time, and so hopefully he said that there was a committee in place and that they would be trying to look at it. And so from our point of view, we want to continue to agitate. We want to write and engage both the commercial banks and the government about the changes in policies that we feel that will benefit the Bahamian people in financial services. And then we want to escalate that. If we're not going to get a lot of feedback from that, we want to continue protesting, as well as eventually we want to put some things in place that will make it possible that we may be able to boycott certain institutions if they're not willing to change some of the way that they do business here.
Now, Doctor, there is a key word that you have used that tend to excite me, and that is protesting. Are you protesting against the right organization? Is it the bank, or should you take the protest to the Prime Minister?
Well, first of all, the closest thing is the central bank. Yes, the government is above all of that. It's central bank's policy that dictates how things work with the banks. And we would like to see a shift there. So I think a multi-pronged approach is best, where we kind of advocate in all of these areas so that they see that we're serious. It's not just the government, it's the directors of the bank.
Which you are suggesting to me that the central bank has the power over determining. Is that codified by law or?
Some of it is, and then some of the other stuff that we looked at, the Banking Trust Act, which was amended. I actually found that Part 8 in that particular act talks about being able to kind of not specifically regulate on fees, but being able to say, look, the bank is being offensive in particular ways. And looking at Part 6 on that, it says that if they go against the interests of the Bahamian financial services, that central bank can actually take some action against them. And so that in itself gives them the power to make some of the changes that we are talking about. And we want to know why they're not really using that. to better facilitate a better banking system in the country.
Well, I'm going to suggest to you, I hear what you say, all right, but I'm going to suggest to you that the people that you really should take your fight to is the representatives of the people, because whatever policy that is being implemented by the central bank, certainly the politician must have determined that.
Well, so far, I don't know some of them. Let me not say that, but
Because I cannot see,
Yeah.
particularly this group of Negroes who are in charge of the central bank. You say I already dealt with them when they were at the Ministry of Finance, right? The first thing they did, the people that who run in the central bank,
Yes.
they're grossly incompetent.
Wow.
They're the wrong people. You want to know why I'm saying it?
sure.
They ordered the treasurer of the Bahamas to unlawfully refuse to accept the taxes without any amendment to the law.
Wow.
Do you know I was the only Negro who didn't listen to them? Every Negro, all the Conkey Joe people, all them smart lawyers, they went to the wrong place and paid the tax.
This was which tax? This was
Under the law, the treasurer
right.
is required to accept taxes. All right? For instance, if you had purchased a piece of land, you go there to have your conveyance stamp. Those Negroes who are in charge of the central bank told them to go to Inland Revenue. All the big time lawyers in the country went there. Guess who didn't go? The grassroots. I told them they ain't talking to me, but they dumb self.
They sound like they need to consult with you. Mr.
Well, they
President.
need to consult
Okay.
with me, because the first thing I would tell them is they should learn to read the law.
Yeah.
All right?
And so I think we should go at it a different way. Definitely on a political level, yes.
That's
we're
key.
we're actually having a meeting on Thursday at 6:00 in Palmdale. Ashley's All Things Bahamian, just to get a collective consensus before we move forward.
Yes.
And so all of these things, all of these ideas that people have, because, you know, we are regular everyday citizens as well.
Right.
We want everybody's collective ideas so that when we move together.
Well, be careful of the central bank, because those Negroes who were in charge, they were so dumb
Oh, boy.
and uneducated that they ignore the law.
So we shouldn't address our letters to them.
All right? I only want you to know.
Yeah.
All right? I want you to know. And there wasn't man enough to answer my letter.
Wow.
Okay? So you're in trouble.
Oh, boy.
The same people in charge of the central bank was the same people who told Jeannie Cartwright, the treasurer, to break the law. You hear me? And yes, they can't sue me, because I beat them with their dumb self. All right? Now, I'm going to suggest to you that you should. My spiritual advisor, they were dumb.
Yeah, but
If you
Mr.
tell,
Monica, you don't have to be that harsh in trying to correct.
I have to be harsh because they waste my time.
Be professional.
I'm very
You're
professional.
dealing with professionals.
Yes,
you know?
those professionals were dumb. They ignored the law. Huh? That's what they did. And the treasurer was so frustrated. I told her I was going to liberate her. And, you know, she was half white. And so she was very intimidated with those Negroes. But I saved her by veiling their backside and refusing to pay. All right? But you got to put the policy to the government.
Yes.
All right?
And that's our intention. Just lay it out there.
And tell them this is what you want.
This is what we want.
Because what time is it?
It's the people's time.
What time is it?
It's the people's time.
But they got some people in charge of us who are grossly incompetent.
Well, that's why we as citizens, we have to step out and we have to help, and we have to just make it very, very clear.
This is powerful.
Absolutely.
Well, you're doing the right thing. Don't leave me. Because it isn't too often that I have a whole doctor on the show with me. I got a man of God, and now I have a medical doctor.
Physician.
Physician.
Heal thyself.
Oh, hallelujah. This is powerful. This is powerful. Folks, I have with me a wonderful Negro medical doctor. Now she's concerned about what the banks are doing to us. So she's going to hang around, keep talking with us, and then at some point I'm going to open the phone so you can put question to her. Financial question, of course. This is Freedom March. The central bank got some dumb people, And I have the evidence to prove it. I'll be right back after the break.
Freedom March with Rodney Monker will be right back after this. This is Freedom March with Rodney Monker.
Welcome back to Freedom March, broadcasting live on ILTV studios here in Nassau, Bahamas. My name is Rodney Monker, my spiritual advisor. Well, he's also giving me banking advice. And then there is our special guest, Dr. help me, Denothra
Archer Cartwright.
Archer Cartwright. You from Abacoa?
My family background is Abaco. My grandfather's people came over to Nassau a long time ago.
Okay. Well, if you keep telling me about your family, before you leave, you will be my cousin.
Okay.
'Cause, you know, I'm looking for family. All right? So, folks, Dr. Archer Cartwright is a part of a new, for better description, consumer group in which they are concerned over how, for the last 1908 to 2017, is about 100 and how much years, my spiritual advisor? 11 years?
11 or so. Yeah,
Is it?
Yes,
You
yeah.
saw? Or is it 109?
Nine.
For 109 years,
9 and 87.
the Royal Bank was established here in the Bahamas in 1908. And you would know, based on our history, that decent Loretta Butler Turner, her grandpa, national hero, the late Samuel Boynton Butler, did go there to row for the people them to get work. Well, Samuel should have gone one step further, and he ought to have demanded that the banking, interest rates should have been equivalent to that which existed in the United States and Canada.
Wow.
Yep.
But don't forget, this is a Negro country, and they exploited us. They exploited us, but praise the Lord, a century later, education is more advanced, and the young people are standing up. And I thank God that there are women, the women them, who are educated enough to stand their own and to fight for the people them. And they have my blessing. I'll come back to banking, doctor. I have to curse one or two people out, because in the country, it is ripe with corruption, and they think we are fool. All right? To the Auditor General, Terence Bastian, you're doing a good job. We have them on the run. But there is a piece of auditing that I haven't heard anything about. You see, they think they can fool me. I want to know about some money that has been mismanaged from the Attorney General office. They think that I know what is going on. I want you to go to the Attorney General office and do an audit. Then when you finish there, I want you to go to the Supreme Court, and I want you to tie it, because I am playing ombudsman, and I need to know what they did between the Attorney General and the Supreme Court. Now note, I ain't accusing nobody individually. I'm not suggesting that any judge did anything improper. I'm talking about institution now. The office of the Attorney General. Y'all think I ain't know what y'all was doing, eh? And I want the audit to go there. I want to see what Marvin can do. Because all Marvin doing is covering up. So let me see what he can do. So, Mr. Auditor General, You got two symbols because I need the information. And piece by piece, I shall be saying it here because skullduggery is afoot. My spiritual advisor, have you seen the Tribune today?
The Tribune, no. I can see it now. What
Well-
are you looking at? Missing migrants had help? Sure.
Well, let's leave that alone. Me
Tell your people stop breaking our laws.
and Frankie could solve this overnight. Frankie Campbell and I, we can solve this
Yeah.
overnight.
How so?
How you mean?
Yeah, tell me.
Frankie is Haitian and I is Haitian.
Boy, tell you.
All right? So we can solve this. Frankie,
Oh, boy, tell you.
pour qui ça? Immigration. Pa! I think I'm going to get locked up.
Où finit balai?
You think?
Où finit balai?
You think Frankie will expose?
Oh, boy. tell you.
Frankie! Pour qui ça? Hein? Dimanche passé ya. Yo ale na memorial. Pour qui ça ou pas dit Marvin Dames pour mettre en pile police là ak immigration ak defense force là. Hein? Tout novembre. En pile bateau yo haïtien a vini Nassau pour Noël.
Translate.
No.
My spiritual advisor, you keep quiet. Huh?
You're dangerous, you know.
No, I'm not dangerous.
Well, you...
Novel!
Is he going to translate that?
Novel Avini! And Frankie connaît ça, Map connaît ça. But Minis, pas trosser moi, il trosser l'autre garçon. Frankie! And Frankie connaît. Frankie! Pour qui ça ou pas dit Marvin Dames? En pile bateau yo avini dimanche passé a. You have a problem when people are talking in strange tongues?
Yeah, because
I don't understand Creole.
But this is true. But it was not intended, I say to you respectfully. This is country talk. This is me and Frankie.
Okay.
Frankie is Haitian and I'm Haitian. The only difference is I born in the Bahamas.
Ooh.
And Frankie, pas fait Nassau, he fait pays étrange. Look, Frankie could have told Marvin. He knows that Marvin is cocky. Frankie could have said, listen, Christmas is coming. And a boat will come. He could have told Marvin to get the defense force on the alert.
My concern, though, Mr.
Go ahead,
Monker,
Doctor.
is if a sloop, go in a few miles per hour, how does it elude our defense
It's
force?
easy. It's very easy.
5 days in travel and come right up almost to where the defense force base is.
If I answer you,
In a time of technology, I really don't see how that's possible.
Yeah, that's some serious navigation,
Yeah.
eh?
I'm trying serious navigation.
That's some serious navigation.
Spiritual advisor.
Who are these boat captains, man? Because they're well trained.
Nah.
Unless they're Bahamians.
Listen, it's easy.
Don't we don't have any drones out there, any buoys that could
boy,
alert us
tell
to
you.
what's going on?
In all this
What-
modern time.
Listen, I'm superstitious, right? So please forgive me. I'm very superstitious. It's magic. It's
Don't stop that.
my spiritual advisor. It's magic.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? Ukune. Le mama li avine. Mama li caché dans cimetière. Yo passé cimetière avant yo arrive.
So, en pile boka Nouveau-Orleans or Haiti?
Tout pays.
Oh, boy, I tell you, this is interesting.
Listen.
This is interesting.
Listen, it's magic. It is either magic or l'argent.
L'argent.
No, magic.
L'argent.
L'argent. Huh? How is it that the defense force could allow the boat to come through?
Right
What-
next
what
door.
rhythm?
Right next door.
Huh?
Next door.
Gotta be some conspiracy going on, man.
Apparently, there's no lights out there. They can't even see if anything's even coming.
They would not have come ashore in the dark. They came early in the morning.
Early in the
Yeah,
morning.
yeah.
Right? It's very easy to solve.
Between 4 and
Me and
5.
Frankie knows. How is it done? the first mistake was that the FNM sent cable, what you call them cable, them little teeny.
Fiber optic?
Fiber optic to Haiti. I warned Papa. When Papa them was doing that, I said, Papa, why are we sending telephone fiber optic to Haiti? Was it Papa? I think it was Papa.
No,
Papa.
I think the improvements were made under the first PLP under Christie. They did the fiber optics.
You sure it's Christy?
Yeah, through to connect that part of the region to
It
the
was in
U.S.
the FNM?
I think it was under
Let me
the
send out a
Christie.
code. Ezekiel, I don't want to offend Papa. Send me the right message. Was it Papa? Because Papa's more Haitian than Christy.
No, after we spent all that money, Papa then sold the company
Yeah.
with all the infrastructure.
So it was
200 million.
Papa.
Who sold
Sold
it, but
PDP.
prior to that, the money had been put in by the PLP government.
It was the PLP who did it? Oh, goodness. I don't want to tell lies on Papa. But Papa, I'm going to have to go in a trance because in my trance, it's Papa. But you say it's Christy.
Yeah, I believe
But
it was
I'll have to
Christie.
correct that tomorrow. But I'm going to stick with my story
Okay.
of the FNM. And I raised the question, why are we doing it? And as the doctor pointed out, Papa them sell it to Haiti. Well, if I'm in Haiti and I need to get to Nassau, I got to send a text. Right? Man, you sure it ain't there for them?
I'm pretty sure, because remember, Papa them came and sold it. All the infrastructure was already there.
It was already there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to find that out and straighten things. But what you expect? I'm coming to Nassau, right? On the boat. So I need to send a text. Send a text that I'm coming. I need to call a taxi, right? That's what happened all the time. Me and Frankie knows. All right? So this, with modern technology, they send a text. They say what time they're going to arrive. And those of us who is assisting, I've never assisted,
Wow.
right? They almost get me mad. They don't let me know they come until after they reach.
Please let Mr. Monker know.
Yeah. And they tell you what time they're going to arrive.
Yep.
So we got our taxi. It's a lot of us, who have taxi and other transportation. And then we look at the Defense Force and we recognize the Defense Force is sleeping, right? So you jump in our car and we take you to safety, all right? Or to a safe house, all right? Frankie, what we can do? And don't forget what is happening. Minutes say you must be straight by the 31st of December. If you're going to get straight by the 31st of December, you got to get here early.
Got to get here first.
Right.
What is this?
Because CRO, I don't like what y'all did to that Haitian woman. All right? The argument y'all advanced to deny her the character certificate was wrong. How the heck you could say you ain't gonna give the woman no character certificate because her passport does not say when she arrived? Listen, the woman got children 17 and 20 years old. Unlike Minister, what the minister name? What is the name of the minister? Who I said didn't born here.
You something else,
What is the name of the minister?
You forgot quick as that? You suffer from Alzheimer's, eh?
Alzheimer's and old timers. Minister-
Frankie Campbell, man.
Yes, right? The woman has documents better than Frankie Campbell for her children.
You saying Frankie documents?
Huh? Of course I've seen Frankie documents. I have them. You forget it's me who found them?
Yeah.
Okay. And so the police was wrong to deny her the character certificate. Yes, her passport will not show when she arrived in the Bahamas, but certainly the woman can produce the birth certificate for the number of children she has. 5, 6 children. That's evidence of the woman having been born in the Bahamas. And I don't like what the police did. How you expect for the woman to get straight in time for December 31st if the police is coming up with flimsy excuses to deny her a character certificate? It's not right. And that's one of the problems I have with Frankie. Frankie will not stand up. Why are you laughing? Frankie, pou ki sa ou pa kampe pou pep mwen yo? Hein? Bon Dieu, pa. My spiritual advisor, you make me feel guilty. When I'm talking, you look at the camera.
Because ou pale pil anyhow.
You're not going to curse it.
Oh boy.
Don't curse my spiritual advisor. But today,
Oh Lord.
I like the Tribune because the Assistant Commissioner of Police, retired, Paul Thompson, he supports my position. He has agreed with my arguments that Marvin Dames has acted prematurely. Paul Thompson, meet me tomorrow where you saw me the last time, so I can tell you why I think Marvin is doing this. And we have to get Marvin to return to the right path. Marvin, we need those guns and bullets. We need them. We need the guns and the bullets. You know, I have to curse them out every now and then so they could know I'm around. All right? Because I have them under investigation. All kind of bullets nobody can account for. Marvin goes down to the base and come back and say, they tell him the bullets are accounted for. Why they didn't tell that to the Auditor General? Huh? And why Marvin don't bring the guns forward and let's count them. All right? I want to know who was the salesman. I want to know. Anyway, I don't know if I should run on with what Mr. Paul Thompson had to say. All right? Let's look at something that Paul Thompson has to say, because Paul, at 90, was one of the greatest detectives on the Royal Bahamas Police Force. The only officer who was better than him was my dad. Okay? But Paul Thompson was great investigator. All right? Only my dad was better than him. Okay? Now let's see what Paul has to say. Well, let's start off with what the Tribune said that Marvin Dames had to say in response to the report. That's the Auditor General's report. Mr. Dames told the Tribune he was not concerned about the procurement exercise as there were multiple layers of scrutiny surrounding the weapons. He said he was convinced there was no cause for alarm over the report after speaking with Commodore Tellis Bettel and the Ministry of National Security Permanent Secretary Carl Smith. Mr. Dames stressed, despite the reported missing custom entries, there were no missing weapons. How we know there was no missing weapons?
Interesting.
Huh? How we know that? While there were no concerns over the integrity of the 2014 procurement process, Mr. Dames said he has ordered a full review of all companies currently engaged with his ministry to ensure full compliance with all laws and policies. But yesterday, Mr. Thompson, that's Paul Thompson, the retired Assistant Commissioner of Police, said he found both the report's findings and Mr. Dames' response pre-bothersome. Let me repeat that one more time. Paul Thompson, the 90-year-old retired Assistant Commissioner of Police, said he found both the report's findings and Mr. Dames' response bothersome. The police are responsible for the licensing of firearms dealers, and I cannot imagine why the police were not involved in this person and why the name of business is being kept so secret. I don't see why that is, the former police officer said. How the person got a license to deal with firearms without the knowledge of the police, I can't understand. Mr. Thompson continued, I am also a bit set back. With all due respect to him, meaning Marvin Dames, that the minister would try to make it seem that everything is all right. And I tell you that? I told you that Marvin Dames is tied to the hips of the former Commodore. Now, Paul Thompson and I ain't talk. All right? Now, Paul is suspicious. All right? Because something is fundamentally flawed in Marvin Dames' argument. Don't forget what I told you. Marvin Dames was in charge of security at Bahama when he got Roderick Bowe to prematurely leave. I don't think Roderick ever resigned from the Defense Force. He just walked away. All right? And went on that place with Marvin. Now Marvin, by his premature maneuvering, one could reasonably, it's a good thing I know Marvin is a saved man. Outside of that, I would say that Marvin is involved in skullduggery. But he can't be involved in skullduggery. But by his answer, he opened up himself to suspicion. And guess what? Paul Thompson trainee daddy. All right? So Paul knows of what Paul is talking about. Something is fundamentally wrong. And I need a royal commission of inquiry to be appointed to investigate these Negroes. Marvin's argument is that the Americans would not have had it. You can't count on the Americans. Remember one American president, they were selling cocaine. They forget.
The Iran-Contra affair.
It's a stupid Negroes. You had a whole U.S. government. They sell cocaine. They sell gun. All kind of nonsense. I was so shocked. I can believe that the government of the United States could be exchanging coke for gun and all them kind of things. And Marvin tell me, huh? I could understand if that man was in charge. All right? But something is wrong. Paul Thompson, you're on the right track. And let me tell you why I'm listening to Paul Thompson. It was Paul Thompson who encouraged, but it didn't work. It was Paul Thompson. I heard the testimony at the Commission of Inquiry when Sir Lachlan Thompson, a former commissioner of police, said that Paul Thompson came into his office and told him to pick up arms and overthrow Pinnan and the PLP. So when Paul Thompson talked, I listened. And I'm the only Negro who remembered the testimony of Sir Lachlan Thompson. All right? So Paul knows what he's doing. Listen to the nation. The guns are missing. Don't mind them. The bullets are missing. And they hide the entry. I don't know who hide it, but they hide it. And I want it back. All right? Because too much guns are missing. Want them back. Paul Thompson, you're on the right track. At 90, you've always been a good policeman. And I've always had good respect and admiration for Paul Thompson. He knows what is going on. He knows corruption when he sees it. He knows gangsterism when he sees it. And I don't care what you all say. Until such time as we get the custom entries and we count all the bullets and all the guns, I support the Auditor General. And who knows, I may miss and tell you all why I supporting him. I don't support based on a lack of information. Because the people them tell me. The people them tell me everything. Because they know I want a good government. All right? Now Marvin is hiding. Come Marvin, stop it. You're a member of the Holy Roman Catholic Church. And I'm a member of the Holy Roman Catholic Church. And many of y'all are making me feel disappointed. I've been shocked when I run into members of the church who's not holding up the principle of Jesus Christ. Marvin, turn back! I'm your brother in the church. Turn back, Marvin, because I am guided by a powerful institution, and we know corruption when we see it. Tell me about what the Americans would not have done. The Americans were smuggling cocaine for gun. This is Freedom March. I'll be right back after the break.
Do you have something to say to the senator? Call Freedom March at 323-7775. Toll free from anywhere in the Bahamas at 242-300-0045. Freedom March with Rodney Monker, only on ILTV. Is Freedom March with Rodney Monker.
Welcome back to Freedom March, broadcasting live on ILTV studios here in Nassau, Bahamas. My name is Rodney Monker. I'm joined in studio by my spiritual advisor, Bradley Roll. And of course, our special guest today is Dr. Donatra Archer Cartwright. And she's a general practitioner. And Dr. Cartwright has been talking to us about how the consumers, us, Bahamians, have been exploited by the banks for over 109 years. Doctor, welcome back to Freedom March.
Thank you, Mr. Monker.
So, has any of the banks called you in yet to talk peace?
Not as yet, but I'm sure after our letters go out, we hope to be hearing back from them. One of our members had written the banks in the past, and they didn't respond to him. So hopefully as a collective, they will take us a lot more seriously than individuals, and hence why we got together and why we're encouraging Bahamians to come together with us, because together we are stronger than individuals fighting these battles ourselves.
Now, the bank that you originally picketed, what is the name of that bank?
Well, we kind of we went downtown, so we were between, I guess, the two big boys, you call them, Scotia and RBC. So we kind of canvassed that particular area between those two banks.
Okay.
I would say that from what we've encountered, a lot of the complaints that we have from the everyday citizens, a lot of it's coming from RBC. And,
RBC?
Yeah, and then,
Okay.
of course, Scotia also has their issues as well, but quite a few, especially with the check cashing, going up to, I think it's $16 per check.
Really?
And
That's
so
armed robbery.
Yeah, it's $15 plus VAT. So you have to understand that someone is paying for that checking account. They're paying for that checking account every month. And then on top of that, every check that they write, if they do not have an account there, someone has to come there and cash that check. They have to then pay for that check to be cashed. So it's almost like they're getting their money twice.
Well, I've had little experiences. First Caribbean, there is a certain distinguished attorney who's giving me a little check. So I went to the bank and they tell me they can charge me $5. I said, for what? They said to cash your check. I said, well, y'all hold on for a second. And I went back to the lawyer and I cursed him out. And I said to him, you come cash your check.
Right.
All right? Because these people were trying to rob me.
Well, I encourage people to try to deposit your checks, because if you deposit your checks into your own personal account, now you would have to wait. If you really need the money, that's where they get you. But if you put it into your personal account, there's no charge. And so that is a way of kind of trying to get around some of that. So we have to be clever to try to
Have you been to Brent Simonette Bank?
Yes.
Are you having the same problem at Commonwealth Bank?
I would say fees-wise, Commonwealth has been a lot better than the other commercial banks.
Have you been to the People's Bank, the Bank of the Bahamas?
With the situation Bank in Bahamas is in right now, I would feel more comfortable when they resolve that, all some of their issues before leaning on them as our kind of like sole bank.
Have you had an experience where the bank don't want you to use their bathroom?
No, but I'm sure someone's had that encounter.
Well, I had that problem. I went to Commonwealth Bank and I wanted to urine. And they told me I could not pee. So I asked them, where's the white man? Because I assumed there must be a white man somewhere.
Well, the white man is in Canada somewhere.
For Commonwealth Bank.
Well, the white man is right here.
Well,
The
the white
plaza.
man.
Marquis Street Plaza.
No! The white man is my friend.
Oh, that's Rupert Roberts?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I told them I was going to tell Rupert Roberts to take his money out of the bank. And I demanded the right to pee.
Did they give you a reason why?
I think they thought I would rob the bank.
Oh, no.
And I told them, listen, I would never rob this bank because for two reasons. One, I'm a justice of the peace and we don't rob bank. And two, the bank belonged to Rupert Roberts. So they, after carrying on, they finally run me somewhere to use the bathroom. I want town planning to ensure that the next set of banks have bathroom for the clients.
But I could understand that argument, having worked in the
What
banking.
argument you can
Well,
understand?
here's
Well,
the
couldn't
point.
they have banks out front,
Well,
away from it? Like
Yes,
the
the
bathrooms out front?
problem is the way, the location of these bathrooms and what is called secured areas in the bank, and only staff should really be privileged to.
So where the customer can pay?
Well, that's the argument that should be advanced by customers because basically, if you look at the way some banks are set up, a lot of times you have to go past their vault area to get to the
Yeah,
restaurant.
but
you
I
know?
wouldn't.
So
I wouldn't know the combination.
it ain't that. It's just that it is a secure area, and they don't want everybody to know how that bank is actually set
So
up.
you're advocating for
Is it?
consumer bathrooms.
There has
basically.
to be. There has to be a
They
bathroom.
should have a bathroom. I agree.
Well, yeah, you could argue it from that point,
Right.
but I understand why the banks did that. You know, a lot
Man,
of
I
times.
can't understand
And
that.
there are times when staff would feel uncomfortable with people tracking through certain secure areas to use the bathroom.
I say have one out front.
You got to be careful with that, you
Oh,
know.
they could build one in the back of the yard.
Outside, yeah, okay. Well,
Yeah.
well,
After
that's-
all,
that's a thought.
I'm a
That's a
Negro,
thought.
and I should be subjected to that indignity. All right? We mustn't allow no more banks to be built in this country unless there are provision for the consumers to have access to the bathroom.
I feel like they don't really think about the consumers for some reason in our financial industries.
Yeah.
It's
Bad
really,
leadership.
Powerful point.
it's really,
It's a powerful point.
Bad leadership.
Well, banks don't really see people, you know, and that's sad that banking has gotten to that point in this modern age. The reality with banking is figures. That's all they see. Bottom line. You remember now these banks are owned and operated by certain people who have a lot of interest in these banks, shareholders and stuff like that. And once the shareholders are satisfied, I mean, the bank don't really care about the common
and I
man.
think we're quiet
You know?
because they cannot do a lot of this stuff. I mean, and the banks globally have a bad image, but they can't do to the extent of what they do here. They can't do it elsewhere. Like I've lived in Canada for 3 years when I was in school, and the banks were like, as a student, they were trying to give me stuff. I find the banks here are kind of very like you need them and you need to come and bring your land papers, your children.
That's interesting that you make that
everything.
point.
It's
Yeah.
very, very different culture, the way that they treat people here versus elsewhere. And other people have had experiences with American banks and other places where they roll out the red carpet for simple things like opening an
That's
account.
interesting. That's
And over
interesting.
here, it's almost like pulling teeth. Like, what you have to go through to even open a bank account? It's so restrictive. I don't understand how that policy could benefit anybody.
Poor Negro leadership. That's what it is. Okay? They will treat you with indignity because your leadership accepted it. All right? Now I want to tell the Royal Bank to treat people good because I stop a whole robbery. You hear me? I stop a whole robbery now. I tell y'all, the fella called me, said, Monkai broke, and I just had a baby. And the woman is nagging me, and he need pampers. So, why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? So he told me he need pampers,
You bought the Pampers.
right? So I said, okay. He said he ain't got no money. And he said he's going to rob the Royal Bank. So I asked him which branch. He said the main branch. I said, you serious? And he started crying.
Let them try it.
So I had a friend with me, Erlen Williams. I said, Erlen, Peter say he's going to rob the bank. He said, let me talk to that idiot. And as Peter wept, Erlen told me he think he was right. So I said to Peter, listen, I'm going to buy the Pampers. And we had to intercept him. And I got bad name. My oldest brother still think I's the baby daddy. And I told him no. And I stopped Peter from robbing the bank. But now Peter's no longer with us. He has passed away. So I want the Royal Bank to know that many of us are doing good services in the protection of our bank. So treat my people good. But I remember there used to be a good banker, Harold Longley. Good man. I haven't heard from him. And when I went to the Royal Bank, he always treat me good. He told me he's going to treat me good under one condition. So I asked him, what was that condition? He said, now, if I miss and put 1 cent over in your account and you move it, I finish with you. So I told him, okay, if you put 1 cent over, I'll let you know and I wouldn't touch it. And listen, he treated me good. In 1992, when the F&M came to power, they tried to take away my taxi plate. You hear me? My back was against the wall. I was desperate. And then all of a sudden, I thought about Harold Longley and I called him. And when he answered the phone, he never asked me what I wanted. He was more concerned about what was taking place. He said, listen, I'm so happy that you stood your grounds and told the F&M you're going to take them to court. What they mean you got that unlawfully? So I kept quiet as he flattered me. And when the flattery was over, Harold Longley said, what you called me for, by the way? I said, listen, I need a brand new bus. And he said to me, for you taking on the F&M and turning them back, I'm going to give you 100% financing. So now go to any company and bring the paper. So, you know, I got a little soft feeling for the Royal Bank.
Wow.
Because Harold Longley gave me 100% financing as I turned Papa and the F&M back. I got them to court, you know.
Wow.
Prosecute their backsides and win the case.
You're not going to get that now.
In the courts?
No, I mean RBC or wherever.
No. I don't need them.
Yeah.
No, my taxi is on reach.
Okay.
Yeah. You know I buy a taxi?
Oh, no. I wasn't
Yeah,
too sure.
I buy a taxi. That's why I told the people them before these business people make Menace discontinue allowing us to bring them cheap Japanese car in the country, quickly buy. You follow?
Yep.
Because they don't want us to have no cars. So, what is the next event? What is the next planning?
So we are meeting Thursday at 6:00.
This week Thursday?
This week Thursday. Ashley's All Things Bahamian in Palmdale. You can go check us out on Facebook on our page for more information.
What's your page name?
It's called Citizens Against Bank Exploitation,
Okay.
CABE.
Yes.
And you'll see information there. You can message us if you're interested in being a part of the planning. We're going to be moving quickly. From this point on, this is the meeting to kind of formalize the actions in the future.
Exactly.
And,
where's this meeting place?
So if you're in Palmdale, if you know the corner of St. Thomas More School.
Yes.
Yes. If you were to turn through there and pass Commonwealth Fabric.
Yes.
We are the last building on your right-hand side, 2-story, yellow trim with brown, and you'll see a sign that says Ashley's.
Now you're upstairs or downstairs?
Downstairs. Downstairs there's like a gourmet Bahamian deli. It's called Ashley's. We've got that space for our meeting, and we're going to meet there and kind of finalize our next few steps.
What time?
6:00. You can support in any way you feel like it. We really want people to go out there, and when we say we're going to move, we want you to be with us.
This is powerful. My producer said, you know, I'm leader of the Woman Dem. Have you?
I've heard this.
You heard it?
I heard it. I watch your show sometimes.
Okay. And you are aware that I'm leader of the Woman Dem?
Yes, I've heard you say that.
Okay. And they wanted to know if you were one of the Doctor Dem. Because, you know, it's the Woman Dem, the Man Dem, the Children Dem, the Doctor Dem. Are you one of the Doctor Dem?
You mean, am I a doctor?
Well, folks, she's not one of the doctor them. We have to keep working on her until she becomes. I have thousands of women. And if
Okay.
you declare that you are one of the doctor them, they can come see you and give you business.
Okay.
So you better think about it. You don't have to say
Yes.
it today.
Okay.
Right? But my spiritual advisor, do we have any text?
Yes, we do.
Read some text so that we can hear what the Negroes are saying.
The Royal Bank did not allow a older sick client to use their bathroom. I watched the whole situation. I asked to speak to the manager, and he blamed the young teller for not allowing the elderly lady to use the bathroom. He said the workers on the floor should use their discretion. That's interesting.
Well, did he put in proper policy?
That's the thing, right?
Any bank who don't allow you to use the bathroom, you must call me so I could case them out. All right? Because it's very undignified to deny a consumer, a customer, access to the bank in what is this year?
17.
Their bathroom. Goodness of mercy. We are in trouble. Next.
Charles Love, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. These banks are monsters. I know a lady who has been paying her mortgage on time and is in good standing. She lost her job. She went in to talk to the manager about restructuring the loan. Do you believe that the Bahamian manager had to ask some people in another country for the okay? And they still say they can't do anything. But they call almost every day asking, when can you put something on the payment? These banks are trying to stress people out and make us go crazy. Doc and SA, what should she do? Mr. Monica, I really think the government does care. And that's because these banks are owned by, countries outside.
We'll get minutes
Well, yeah.
to give us some bank license.
So they have
Right,
to.
right, and then that's what we're talking about, Bahamianizing the financial services so that they understand the context of our country. If you're here and you understand your culture, I think you'd be better able to deal with the Bahamian people. This woman obviously was making a great effort. There should be something in place to reward her, to say, well, you were doing your part. We see you in hard times. What is there in place for you that we can use so that you can maybe
Yes.
have some time off without having to pay the
Right,
interest or something,
right.
and then we restart
There you
the
go.
loan once you do. I think these things can easily be solved if we had people at the table who were fighting for us. But they have to present these ideas, and they have to be able to stand firm enough to ensure that some of these things are put into policy and put into laws.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Mr. Monica, and spiritual advisor. Can you ask your guest, Ms. Cartwright, if she can shed more light on the difference between the following concepts: equity of redemption or the equitable right to redeem?
Equitable right. I'm not too sure too much about that in particular, but if you come out on Thursday, we're actually going to have lawyers there. I am a
Right.
citizen just like you, and so I understand a lot of the banking stuff, but I'm not a banker, so I don't want to give you too much on that side. But
Okay.
come out, speak with some of our other members who are a little bit more versed on those specific things. I think, too, what they're kind of talking about is this whole equity in mortgages and different things, and how do we get some benefit out of that. And so I'm all for this concept of having equity into any kind of loans, and we could put a time limit on it. If you put in at least 8 or 10 years, because you have to realize the first 10 years of these loans is just interest. And so you are paying them their interest before you
Hit the
even
principal.
touch your principal. So there needs to be some balance between the two, in which you can get some equity over time, and you're not just looked at as someone who's not paying.
Interesting.
It's someone who has put the time in, and if you've been good at paying, your circumstance should be able to be looked at, so that they make a better decision on your behalf.
I have a text here. Good day, Rodney. Yes, Bradley Roberts did submit a report prior to the 1992 elections on the banks and their action. So if you were to go to the House of Assembly,
Okay.
you can get that report, all right?
And if I find it, I will definitely post it on.
Yes, let's see.
On our page.
Let's see what happened there. Monica, tell the Conky Joe caller to call at least twice a week. He's my favorite caller, okay? Go ahead, my spiritual advisor.
Good afternoon, gentlemen and madam. The doctor lady is right about the cable. It was done by the PLP, Papa won the government in 2007 and sold the company to Cable and Wireless Network for 250
They're saying it was
million, I
they
guess.
they're saying it was not the FNM.
It is the PLP that did the fiber optic thing.
Okay. Good afternoon, Senator. Could you ask your guest, the doctor, to take Peter's job before he lost the rest of the people their money?
Mr. Monica, could you please ask your FNM colleagues and Minister Lanisha Roll and Minister of Finance, Peter Tanquist, when will urban renewal be paid? Their notice of employment that is owed. Thank you for your assistance.
I am watching you in Freeport on my phone, and the cable reception is terrible. You keep cutting in and out. Cable is spoiling my day. I need to listen to you every day. You are on TV. Well, if the telephone ain't working, go to Cable Bahamas. Go ahead, my special.
Good afternoon, Mr. Monica. Would you please send a special happy birthday shout out to Agnes Cartwright on her 85th birthday? She is one of the women them and a faithful viewer of your program. She refused to talk to anyone until your show is finished each day. So that's Agnes Cartwright on her 85th birthday.
Agnes Cartwright, happy birthday. I am pleased that you are one of the women them. And when you have time, tell this good doctor she has to learn to submit to man leadership because we are celebrating Women's Day this month.
Okay.
All right?
Senator, my daughter Shania's 14th birthday today. Can you please give her a shout out, please? Shania, happy birthday, Shania.
Happy birthday.
14 years old.
You are 14. I got a first cousin. Her birthday is today, and she is a wonderful human being. Good afternoon, and when is your next march? The people them want march, eh?
Good day, Mr. Monica. Something needs to be done about the procedure at social services. It is just horrible. Why they telling only certain days they can see clients, not knowing the person's situation? And then when they do assist you, the attitude and service is the worst. Is there anyone to call to put in a complaint? This has been going on for too long, and I feel that social workers can be more welcoming to people who are hurting.
Well, you could always call Dr. Minnis, and if he doesn't answer the phone, you could fax him. Just fax
Mr.
him.
Minnis, so this text says Mr. Minnis is a doctor and not a lawyer.
What they want? Legal advice?
I don't know. Let's see. Let's go to the
Happy birthday to James Johnson, better known as Joni, celebrating on Wednesday from family and friends, especially sister Ada and Ellen. Happy birthday, Joni.
Keep up the good work. I guess, Mr. Monica, you. Spider Marshall is my good buddy. Spider Marshall.
Okay.
Let's see what else we have here. This is the text. No.
Doctor,
No.
the clock is running out on us.
Yes.
What else do you have that you would like to say to the people there?
Yeah, so I just want the people to realize that they do have a voice, and if we all stand together, we can definitely make a change, and don't be discouraged by what's going on. I definitely see that if we have a vision for what we want our Bahamas and our banking and financial services to look like, if we put those things in play and we demand for those things, I think that we can have the change that we're looking for. We definitely deserve more respect. We deserve to own our financial services. We deserve diversity and competition in the market. And we want you guys to come out and join us on Thursday to put in your input and know the way forward. We're also going to be finalizing a day for our next protest and finalizing our letters that will be going out to the various people who we think need to speak with the public about what's going on and to make some changes. So come out, and even if you have an issue, we're going to have various people there who may be able to answer your questions. So we want to come out and see you then.
Give them the address one more time.
So we're in Palmdale. It's a restaurant called Ashley's. We have the space available just for our meeting. And it's the Montgomery Street, which is the corner of St. Thomas More as you go up past Commonwealth Fabric. It's the last building on your right-hand side, 2-story, yellow trim with brown. And you can send us a message on Facebook. We have the location there as well as the event. You can like and share the event. And you can drop us a message about any particular concerns you might want to even address that night. So come check us out.
This is powerful. Well, folks, we had with us a wonderful woman doctor. Dr. Dinotra Archer Cartwright. You married to Conky Joey?
He has Long Island roots.
Well, there's nothing wrong with marrying Conky Joes, all right? To the Conky Joe woman in Spanish Wells, I have received the documents. I'm now looking at it, and I shall get back to you. I'm going to talk to my producer to find out how I get that on TV. But y'all relax. I'm going to take care of that, because your dad is indeed a hero that the country ought to know about. So just relax, and as the spirit moves you on, every Conky Joe on Spanish Wells is invited to call me. All right? Because I'm the Negro Justice of the Peace for the entire Bahamas. My spiritual advisor, I thank you.
Absolutely.
For
Anytime.
engaging bankly.
There's so many other things we could talk about,
the
but
good doctor.
the time would not permit.
Yeah. So this is powerful.
Absolutely.
Folks, take good care. I'm so happy that the country, despite the scandal at the Defense Force and the guns, the people them have been listening to the rule of law. So I want everybody to remain peaceful, continue to obey the law, and who knows, God may finally bless the country. All right? But take good care. The spiritual advisor and I shall see you tomorrow.
If it's the Lord's will.
If it is the Lord's will.
Absolutely. Indeed. Good night, everybody.
Take good care.
The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by Rodney Monker, his guests, callers, and advisors on Freedom March are not necessarily those of the management, ownership, or production unit of ILS, the Verizon Media Group. Freedom March is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without the express written consent of the Verizon Media Group. Freedom March is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2017. All rights are reserved.